Hello and welcome to the first video of basically doing the income statement for Jeremy Buendia. So this report has a lot of different areas where you need to obtain data. This first video I'm going to talk about getting the sales data. Okay. So I have product sales here. Probably better name for that is just sales. This video is probably going to be a little bit longer simply due to the fact that I'm going to be explaining more about like the columns here. Now, like each column, you'll see down here there's worksheet for all these different items. And so, uh, you know, like you have this. Oh yeah, this is product sales. I'm sorry, because we're separating the product sales and membership. Sorry, I forgot that I did that. And then like these are the two areas for sales, and then the rest of these are all basically expenses. Okay, and the reason I broke these up is basically because of the fact that they're all different areas of where you got to get the information and download the spreadsheets and all that good stuff. Um, so I just want to kind of explain some of the ins and outs of the spreadsheet first. So first off, like special notes, I don't have anything there yet. I don't think, except for the first item just says make sure you get the 49 membership for products, blah blah. But actually, that's going to be erased. That's here in kind of a like main focus point of like, hey, make sure you always change the VIP membership ones that are showing 49.99 to to name it as a membership. So um, So anyways, like the special notes section here later, I'll probably have like a checklist of stuff that needs to kind of be done or something, but I'm not sure yet there, but that'll be reserved basically for that. Or if you want to use this for your own personal notes, that's totally cool as well. So VLOOKUPs, I just called it VLOOKUPs. So there's like three main um I'm just going to call this products. I should have put that there. There's three main like tables here, and this products is like we're going to be looking at that now in this video, and then there's the contractor rates. That's going to be for the contractor pay section here that you'll need to do a VLOOKUP with, and then the week ending. That'll be used in every single one. And I'm going to kind of break down, like in this video, kind of like the logic of how this is going to be used. Not that, like, if you get it, that's awesome. But if you don't understand the concept, as long as you just see how the formula is pointing to whatever, and, it should be okay. As long as you know how to get the formula to point to the right cells to reference, then it should be good. But I assume, when I break it down, it shouldn't be too hard to kind of understand, although the formula is kind of big. Um, but we'll get into that in a minute anyways. So these are just basically VLOOKUPs. Now, like with the products can change very quickly, and we may or may not see that now. I think I just did this one and there hasn't been changes. But with that said, like when we do the products and you do a VLOOKUP, you may end up finding like an item not matching. And if that's the case, this probably means, as long as nobody's screwed up the table here, it probably means that that there was a new product added and it hasn't been put in this table. So when that happens, there's basically, a couple things that you can do. Number one is you can look it up, and or maybe logic will tell you that, maybe it was like, for instance, a challenge, but it was 40% off as an example. So Obviously, you know that it's going to be challenge and whatever, logic can tell you what it is. Or if it's not, something you can't understand, like it's a new product or something like that, just let me know. But feel free to add those in. So every time you do it, and in the future, you'll have that there, because obviously once a product's in and it's been sold, that product name is probably going to stay the same. So you know, it's probably better we get into it now, and you can see kind of how like this spreadsheet is made, and what we need to do. I'm gonna have like the way I thought it'd be better, best, because it's this report takes quite a bit of time to do. So I think like I could do a whole video on this and it would just take forever. So I'm gonna do a video on every section, and I think that will make like a lot more sense on how to do it. So without further ado, one thing that I plan to do is I want to add a link to each section that you need to go to. So, like for instance, here this is the product sales. Okay, so we need to go into the membership side of Jeremy Buendia for this. Now you're doing the sales report, so I will say that this isn't much different than for the most part than doing the sales report, except maybe with some of these categories being a little bit different. Um, but like this shouldn't be expense type. That's not correct. That should be like it should just be like income slash expense. Sorry, I'll explain what this is in a minute. But I just had a name, or had the heading here is something that didn't make sense to what the data is supposed to be here. So anyways, like you just need to click this link, and that's the report you need to get. Okay, so that's one awesome thing I think I did that should make it easier. Now, you of course need to be logged in already into Jeremy Buendia's backend. So make sure you do that, or this won't work. So it just brings you right to the product page. So like the only thing you need to do now is just check like the report period should be all time, marked completed, all products, like everything checked except order status, because we're only choosing one that's completed. So the order status is just going to show completed anyways. So I'm just going to click download as CSV. Wait for it to do its magic. Da-dum-da-dum. And open her up. Okay, now I plan to do this with the sales report too, and it's going to be the same exact table almost. I think there's a few different sections that I add in just to break down the logistics of the report a little bit more in the income statement, but we could easily adapt that one to do this. But like, before, like with the sales report, you have to sort it, and then you put in like what category it's supposed to go into, so we can build the reports, right? Well, like with this one, you do that, but you do it with a VLOOKUP. So, um, like the product name, you're just going to put as the description here, okay? So I'm just copying the entire spreadsheet, okay, from top to bottom for column B for the product name. I'm hitting Control Tab on mine, and it's taking me over to the actual template, which, by the way, I will get you that spreadsheet to you when you need it. And so I'm going to hit Control V, and we basically have that information. So first, I'm just going to copy in like all the data that we do need. Next thing we need is the order date. So we'll put that in as under date. Week ending we'll get to in a minute. Quantity we do have. So we're going to put that in. Rate could also be price, so we're just going to put the price here. So, and then that's another thing that we need. So Sorry, I'm changing stuff while I'm talking on this video, and it's not intentional, but um, it's going to happen because I just got this put together and still trying to kind of think of how to do this the best way. So, like that's all the basic items we need. Now, like one quick note on this, like the quantity here, like with this report, it shows you the quantity and then price. But like in reality, what it is this price is already, this isn't like a single item. So like these ones, like if you found one, and I'm just gonna sort this by lowest to highest so you can see, like this one says 6, right? Well, in reality, this price isn't the single unit price. Okay, this price is the total price. So in reality, if you took this number and divided it by 6, that's the unit price, which is $90, which I know to be accurate for like 1 week competition. You can buy it weekly at $90 now. So, you know, in other words, like what I'm trying to point out is like you don't want to put the total here. Like I'm not concerned about you having it where it has to be exactly like this times this, right? Like, and so like I don't want you to have to do a lot of extra work for that. Like I'm not really concerned about the quantity except as long as the total comes out. But we do need the quantity for the other section. So you could just go ahead and put in the quantity that is there just to have some data there. And then instead of like on the product sales, instead of like, putting this equals this times this, just go ahead and say this equals this, and that's already the total price. So, and you'll see why we need this towards the end, like why we're doing it like this. But like that's all you need to do, and then just double click the bottom right to have it autofill the cells to do the same exact thing, and you're pretty much done there. So, the next thing that we need to discuss is well, yeah, we'll do the income expense later. So the next thing we need to do is get the category and subcategory. So this is where the VLOOKUP is going to work out. So it's going to be equal VLOOKUP. What you want is the description here. Okay, for the lookup here, you can see the little pop-up shows you. So the lookup value is going to be the description there that we copied over. Then we need the table and or array. So we go over to the VLOOKUPs worksheet, and this is the one that we need. And so we need to get just get the whole section here. So we got category and subcategory. Holding down Control Shift down arrow to select the entire table. And then another very important thing to do is we need to make sure that it's shown right now on the top here. It shows it as A3 to C76. Now those values need to be absolute. So when we drag this down, we don't want these cell numbers to change, because if we and the way we do that is we put dollar signs in those. And the easy way to do that is after you've selected your selection like I just did, you simply hit the F4 key. F is in Frank, number 4, and boom, it puts those dollar signs in automatically for you. Okay, so after you do that, you go ahead and you hit comma for the next section, and then this is going to say, well, what column index we want. Right now we want the category, which is this is the first column, so this is the second column that we want. So we put the number 2, and then range lookup, we want exact match, so you always put false here. And I've never in my life used true, so so there you have it. We have like basically this VLOOKUP set up. So now what I can do is I'm hitting, like, I could copy this one over here like this, but it's going to give you NA because it's trying to reference the next VLOOKUP. It thinks, okay, since I'm referencing, this one, it's trying to look up this one as the actual lookup value. I can see that if I hit F2, see it's doing quantity. So an easier way to do this is to just go back here, press F2. Oh shoot, I hit F1. So press F2, which puts you into edit mode, and copy the exact formula. Okay, so now I'm hitting Control C, and now when I put it in, it's going to say ebook. Well, that's not what we want. What we want is the subcategory, because these two are exactly the same now. So I'm going to press F2 again, and if we go back and we look, like at the VLOOKUPs, like that's like this is column number 1. This is column number 2. We want subcategories, so that's column number 3. So we're going to go back here, and we're going to change that number 2 here to a number 3. And boom, now we have exactly what we want. So now I'm selecting both of them, and then I get it to where I get that little plus on the bottom right corner. Double click that. It auto-populates. We have all our categories as subcategories put in with the magic of VLOOKUP. So if we just like do some quick page downing, just trying to see everything looks good. There's nothing that says NA, as in, which means that it couldn't find a value for the lookup. And I'm going to go a little bit faster now. I'm pretty sure because I just created this, but another way you could do that is just to do a search like at the end, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm pretty sure it's pretty clean, but I'll definitely do some cleaning up and looking at it, especially towards the end. So next thing that's important to do, well, we could go ahead and do this because this will be a little time consuming in explaining what to do here. So we have here income expense. So this is simply when we create, because all this data is going to be put into one area and one table basically, and so we need to categorize it. And so by categorize it, we need to know, is it revenue or an expense? So way we do this is we put, and I'll probably change that to not income, but revenue. Obviously, income is revenue minus expense, right? So that's not the correct term. So we put number 1 space revenue, okay? Now, and let me just go ahead and change this to revenue, because that's a bad term. Okay, now I could populate this, but the problem is, because this is all revenue, right? Problem is it thinks I want 1 revenue, 2 revenue, 3 revenue. Well, no, I want these all to just be number 1 revenue. And you'll see why, like at the end when we do the income statement, why we put a number in front. But basically, it puts the category, puts the revenue up on top, because we're going to put number 2 expense. But anyways, what I did is I copied. Well, let me just hit Control Z, even though I could do it that way, but it's just easier for you to see like this. So I'm copy and pasting this, so I have 2 number 1 revenues. Now I'm going to highlight them both, and when I do this, and then I click on this, Excel says, oh, okay, so you want me to just make all these number 1s, and don't, put it number 1, number 2, etc. So go ahead and do that, and that'll do its magic. Okay, so now we're going to get into like more complex formula. Now this one, like I said, I think it's always good to try to learn how the formula works and how you do it. But if you don't get it, like I said, as long as you can get the reference, that's cool. But I'm still going to try to explain it in my logic as much as possible. So first off, here's the thing that you need to know. I want to create an income statement from all this data that's basically for each week, with the week being the week ending on Sunday. Okay, so ends on Sunday. Okay, and I'll erase this later, but for now, I'm putting that there just to make it easier to explain. Okay, so there's a few formulas that we need to use and to combine into just one huge formula. that will like give us what day this ends up on, right? So let's just look at the logic of this first. Now, I could go to my calendar and look, okay, this is 7/29, right? So that's today. Um, today's Saturday. And so, like, we know it's Saturday, right? Or if we looked further down, we could see, like, let's just go ways down. This is 7/10. We need to find the day of the week because we're going to figure out which day it needs to end on, okay? So this 7/10 was a Monday, okay? So we can use, like, a formula that tells us what day this date is on, okay? And that formula is equals text, and then when you do that, you'll see the pop-up come up. It says, give me the value. So this is the value here, and then the format. And the format is DDD, okay? And this gives us a 3-day reference for what day it is. So as we saw, that was Saturday. This comes out the Saturday, right? So, like, I don't need to do this right now, but if I propagated it, then I could get, like, the day of the week for everything, right? Okay? So that's one formula that we're going to need to use, okay? Now, another thing that we need is we need the exact date. And this is not an exact date. This is an exact date and an exact time. So we just want the date to be 0, the time to be 0. So, like, if you actually look at the back scenes of Excel, it's actually using the date as like a number. And, like, I forgot, like, if you go back to like 1960 something, or I don't know the exact date, that's day 1. And then, like, the day after that is day 2, and we're on day whatever the hell it is now. And I can see that if I go to I hit Control 1 to bring up the format this. If I tell this just to be a number and have 2 decimals instead of a date, it gives you a number. So wherever the first day that was starting, let's just say that it was December 1st, 1965, and that's not a correct date. I'm just using it as a logic, okay? So let's say that was the first date, okay? So, like, they use this, like, convention where, okay, that was the first day, and so, like, now 4,294 or 42,945 days later since, December 1st, 1965, like, today, which is today, is that many days from what the date that this is supposed to be, which we're just saying for reference that it's December 1st, 1965. So, like, in reality, we could see what that date is, and, like, I'll just do it for the fun of it. Like, here, I'm gonna hit Control Z. Oh yeah, so another thing, like, you see that decimal number there? That decimal number is referencing the time. So there's some type of format where it uses, like, and you can see this is just formatting to 2 decimals, but you can see it's a very large decimal, and that's referencing the time. Maybe they're converting the time into decimal format. Um, and there's some logic behind why I'm telling you this, and I'm going to show you in a minute. But let's just see what the first date is. Like, what I could do here is I could just put the number 1 here, and it should put that in date format. Okay, so I was wrong. So it's 1900, January 1st, 1900. That was, like, that's day number 1. So since that date up to today, because today is the 29th, right? It's July 29th. It's been 42,945 days since. So I'm going to hit Control Z, just some interesting information for you to know. So I'm going to keep this one right now as date, as the number format, because we're going to look at this at logic, right? So if we didn't want this to have time where it's like, July 29th, 2017, and we want that date to be with 0 time, we need to take that decimal number out, right? And so uh, we don't want it to be, or in computer terms, we call that a floating number. We don't need that floating number. Um, we want it to be what we call an integer, which means an integer means it's an exact value. It could be a negative, positive. In our sense, it's all going to be positive, right? But like an integer means there's no decimal number. So the way you do that is you just use this friendly little formula that Excel has called int, and so it's going to basically like decapitate the decimal number. So I put that in, and as you can see, well, it's actually date format here already. But if it wasn't, like I just put a number, and I'll even put like 2 decimal places and a comma separator just so we can see, it's .00 because there is no actual. It took off. It truncated the number. Now it didn't round it, right? Because if it rounded it, it would have gone up to 46. It just took it off, and that's exactly what we want. We just want to know what date we're in, right? So that's like another formula that we need to use. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to paste it as format, and it's just going to change it to the date format, not the number format. And so, like, we need this, okay? Because we want to know the exact date, and then we need to find out, like, what day of the week this falls onto, okay? So, starting off, let me just go ahead and change this back to date format, and I don't want we know the time is going to be 0, or it's going to be basically 12 a.m., so I don't need to know that anyway, so I'm just going to put it to that, okay? So we want the integer value, and then we want to know what is the last day of the week for this. So, like, let's just look at this one, okay? So we already know this is Saturday, but I'm just going to copy this text value and then DDD, okay? So this shows Saturday. So this, this income statement, we want it to fall on the 30th, okay? We want it to end on the 30th because it's a Saturday, and the week ending for this period is going to be the 29th. If we look at it exactly, we'll see that we want this, from ending on Sunday. So we want it starting on, or let me say that again. So we want it to end on Sunday, right? So Monday is going to be the first day, okay? So the period is going to be the 24th to the 30th, right? Okay? So in order to do that, we're going to reference this VLOOKUP here that basically has like how many days we need to add in order to basically calculate what the last day of the week needs to be. So in this sense, it's Saturday, and I have the number 1 here, right? So basically, if we add, like, if we just went back to this product sales and didn't use the formula, but just said, let's just add 1 more day, then that's going to make it the 30th, right? So what we want to do, though, is we want to use a formula that basically looks up that this text here is Saturday, and that it just finds that number through the VLOOKUP, okay? So we're going to change that +1 to a VLOOKUP, okay? So we're going to say plus, and then we're going to say VLOOKUP, okay? Now, I'm going to do a couple things just to kind of break it down a little bit more, but the lookup value is going to be, for right now, we're just going to type it in as Saturday, just to make it easier on our eyes, okay? So I'm going to put SAT, so that's the lookup value, and then what table or array, so we're going to go back to the VLOOKUPs, and we're going to go to week ending, and we're going to grab this data here. And remember, we always need to press the F4 key to make sure that when we start dragging this down, it doesn't start referencing other cells. and then we're going to be going into the second column, and then as I mentioned, we always use false. We want the exact value. Okay, so that should basically, this thing here does the VLOOKUP. We get the integer for the 30th or for the 29th. This gives us the date of the 29th, and then this adds the number 1 because it's looking up that value for Saturday, and it puts it in. Okay, and so like we get the 30th, and that's exactly what we want. Now the problem is if I drag this down, like we put Saturday, but we don't want, we know once we get to the 28th that that's Friday, and so on. And so if we use this, like, and I drag this down, they're all just going to be Saturday, and that's not going to be right. So what we could do is like use this formula, and this one is referencing exactly this cell, right? Like I did this one here. It's D. If I hit F2, you can see it's highlighting D2, or D4, I'm sorry. And so what I'm going to do is just copy this and hit, or highlight it and hit Control X to cut it. I'm just going to delete out the equal sign. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to replace that SAT with the formula for the date to convert it to a date. And if I'm lucky and I hit enter, boom, it's the 30th. So now I'm just going to, like, this formula is perfect, right? And so now I can just basically double click this, let it do its magic, and boom. You can see the 29th is the 30th, and then we know like on the 28th it's still the 30th because that's Friday, right? The 27th is Thursday, still the 30th as you can see on the date. The 26th is Wednesday, right? And then, blah, blah, blah as we go on. Then we get, let's see when the value changes to something different. And here it does. It changes on the 23rd, which is a new Sunday, right? So if we go back here, we can see that that's a new Sunday. So this formula works. So now when we do like some reporting with the pivot table, which you'll see at the very end, why we're doing this. This is going to allow us to like make columns in the dates so we can see every week and have the data put in that way. So with that said, I think we are done, right? Yeah, this one is done. So onward next to a lot easier one. And just so you know, we're going to be using this formula again and again. So like I'm just going to be going through it very fast because all of them are going to use this formula, and so I'm just going to be copy and pasting these ones quickly in the future. So anyways, thank you for watching this one, and I will see you in the next video.